know why I feel this way. It's because of the server I love to play. Bring adventure for me every day. Play on the server the TimeShot way. Hello, people. It's Poten. We're back on TimeShot. Now, last time we were talking about all the politics and stuff like that, and I wanted to say thank. Oh, whoa! Where are all the sheep? There were a bunch of sheep here before. I need sheep. I need sheep for my dropper. Where are the sheep? There's one there and one there. Oh, that horse right there, I bet, is going to be an exploding death horse. So let's just kill him from afar. Don't you run away from me. Don't you come near me either. There we go. Got him. Don't you be exploding into skeletons. Man, I need those sheep. I wonder where they went. Well, I can get around that problem by using the mesa. But I wanted to try to avoid that. There's a few sheep just loitering around the town. I wonder if... I don't think they were the same ones. Anyway. Wanted to thank people who did leave comments. You know, I asked it to remain neutral and for people to just give their opinions on politics in general. And that's how it stayed. Except for one person. One person out of all the comments that I got so far. Only one person was sort of extraordinarily vulgar, which, you know, it shows how passionate people can be. But I tend to think that usually when someone is that vulgar or that, what's the right word for it even? When someone is that passionate about it, that they're probably passionate about it for the wrong reasons. Or for reasons that maybe they're not even really sure of. I don't know. It's hard to make that argument when they are very vocal. But I tend to think that people who are that vocal... This is brown, okay? I need... not brown. I need just normal hardened clay, and unfortunately this little mine here doesn't have a lot of the normal stuff. I'd need to go to the surface and start mining the surface. I think people have tried to avoid that in a large way. Yeah, I'd have to mine all this surface stuff up. I don't want to make it too ugly around our mindless mine, but... You know what? Let's clear our inventory. I need to go swing by Edson's and grab a book. So we can do that. But anyway, it kind of led me to think about another topic that I've kind of hinted at before. In fact, I might have even gone out and said my opinion on it before. But let's talk about it again. And that's a parent's influence on their children. Now... This actually didn't come about by me talking about politics and me thinking like, wow, that guy's really passionate about politics. However, they're probably not even voting age. That was my first inclination. And it got me thinking, you know what? That sort of makes me consider how they then formed this opinion. Like, if you aren't the age to vote, by all means, you can still have an opinion on politics. And in fact, that's something that I really support. I think that having a strong opinion on politics at an early age is a good thing. It helps you develop an opinion as you grow older, and prepares you. Like, if you don't pay any attention to politics whatsoever when you're younger, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're voting age, you are going to sit there and not have any clue what, why, how, when, and you might not even vote. And that's how, you know, the problems start. But I think that getting into it really early on is a good idea. However, if the reasons that you're having an opinion on politics are blinded by what other people think, then that's not really a good thing, in my opinion. And this isn't limited to parents. I'm gonna be focusing mostly on parents and their influence on a child, but it's also really important to note that other people, like celebrities and even friends and stuff like that, could have, even me, I might have some weird say on what you vote for. And that to me bothers me. Like, I can have an opinion on why I vote a certain way, but that shouldn't influence you unless you actually tend to agree for your own reasons. But if you're agreeing with me just because, you know, oh, I want to vote the same way that he does, then that's not good. It's just not. It's not good. You know, so here's my point, is that I grew up in a house, and it's probably a very unique situation because generally couples have the same political beliefs. And that isn't because, you know, they tend to have the same, well, actually, it is sort of because they have the same policies, but I think it's more to the point that, you know, if I like this person, then we share things in common. You know, when you're in love with someone, typically you share a lot in common with them. And in sharing a lot in common with them, they will have the same feelings about certain issues, topics, subjects, whatever you want to call them. And then, therefore, you will probably have the same kinds of opinions on politics. With my parents, it's different. And, okay, like, I'm going out on a limb, and I'm going to suggest that when my parents met, okay, my parents were very secretive, and this is going off on a tangent, so I apologize, and hopefully I can get back on track. But my parents were very, very, very secretive. My mother was the type, very conservative in her beliefs, in that she always felt like the woman was the one who stayed at home and took care of the kids. The husband goes out and does the work. She was very old school in her thoughts. And she was also the type who would, I don't know, just the way that she acted was always that way. But she was secretive in, like, her age, in her past. She kept all that private, because she had this old school sense of pride that a lot of people don't have anymore. Call it good, call it bad, whatever. The point is, though, that more often than not, people... I'm looking for a bed. Probably in the bedroom. Bedroom? Bed? Yes. More often than not, people who are that kind of old school mentality, they will keep things private. So there's not a lot that she reveals to people. Hopefully I kept my chest somewhere in here. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Actually need to expand it a bit. Why I'm saying all this is because she was, well, I've figured out through deductive reasoning that I was kind of an accident, okay, to put it bluntly. I was an accident. And that's sort of revealed to me, not by them, but by my investigation. I found what the heck? There's a whole bunch of sheep down there. Are those the sheep from the farm? Maybe? It doesn't really help because there's no grass down there, but, you know, there's a bunch of sheep down there now. Anyway, I found their marriage certificate, and the date on the marriage certificate was so close to my birth date, like within a few months, that I can kind of deduce, you know, how the marriage went. That it was kind of a, what do they call it, a shotgun wedding, where it's sort of like they don't really want to get married, but because they're both living in conservative style families, they need to, because there's a baby involved. It's sort of that kind of situation. I've pieced that much together. It doesn't change who I am or what I am or how I grew up or anything like that. But it's sort of interesting because my parents have different political beliefs. They just have different political beliefs. And that's a rare thing, I think, in any relationship. And it caused a bit of hardship. They got into a lot of heated arguments. And it wasn't like, you know, debate. It was, oh God. Okay, it was always like, you're an idiot for thinking this way, and I'm right and you're wrong. You know? So-and-so is better than this guy. You know? Like that kind of mindless argument that I just can't stand. I hate it when people say, like, X person is better than this person. Why? Well, because they just are. You know? They're just better. You know? I can't stand that. You know? Like, argue policy. Argue, you know, whatever you want. Argue something, though. Don't just say, you know, this guy's better because he's part of this party. So anyway, I grew up in this kind of a environment where it sort of maybe benefited me in that I had one parent who was rather conservative and one parent who was rather liberal. And for different reasons, I feel like. But the problem with both of my parents is that it seems like neither of them were members, or not members, but they were part of their political... They voted the certain way that they voted because that's just the way that they always did it, or maybe that's the way that their family always did it. And that's what we were getting at. This is what we wanted to talk about. That's what I wanted to talk about. Is that both of my parents voted the ways that they voted, not because they felt like, oh yes, I strongly agree with this policy, but instead because this is the way that my parents voted. This is the way that my family has always voted. This is the way that my teachers voted and the community I grew up in, how they voted. And it was always just that way. I thought I just heard a horse. Is there a hidden mule? Oh, it might have been a cow. It might have been a cow. Yeah. Mushroom. Ooh. Ooh, no spoilers on the maze. I'm liking that. Anyway. I need a few pieces of black dye. That's why I'm kind of searching around for squiddies. There's some maybe closer to the land. Yeah, not really. I wish I had my Depth Strider boots back. I wonder if Edson... He might have Depth Strider boots. Or books. He might have. I really don't know. I'll have to go check. But anyway. My parents voted the way that they voted for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. And the thing is that it's sort of... Because they were so different, we, the children in the family, kind of benefited from that in a weird way. You know, yes, there were arguments. They had arguments about who was better and whatever, and we never really took sides. but it really made us focus on the differences and what the policies are and why we should vote a certain way, because we were always struggling to find our own sort of opinion, I guess. Like, we didn't want to take sides, and so we had to choose how to vote ourselves, which is a really awesome concept, isn't it? To actually make up your mind yourself. What? This is a thing that people can do? Yes, they can, and they should. But it's something that doesn't happen often, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today in general, not just in politics, but in all things, in what a person should study, in what beliefs a person should have, in what a person should do with their lives for a living or for their future. A lot of the time, it is influenced by your family, specifically parents in general. But I guess it's not limited to that. You know, I've been saying parents, but let's not completely limit it to that. Just in general, it is. I know that people are brought up in a lot of different, a lot of different types of households and families and stuff like that. But my point is the same, is that the people that you spend the most time with tend to influence your opinions, which is both good and bad. And I know that a lot of that can be good. You know, if you have a really good upbringing, then, you know, I commend you for that, and you're going to be an awesome person for that. When you have a family that is strongly negative, it pains me to see people grow up having those same negative thoughts, you know. And it stems, like, there was actually a debate I watched a long time ago, and it was about punishing parents for the behaviors of their children. And I can't really say whether I agreed or disagreed with that. I think it was related mostly to school. Like, if a kid is a bully to another kid, then you should punish the parents. Give them a fine. Give them community service or something. Like, sentence them to community service. Or, whatever. And make the parent a better parent. Like, hold them accountable in some way for their children's actions, because a child is inherently good. This is what I've heard a lot. I don't know if it's true. I'm not going to get into this philosophical debate right now. It's completely different. People saying, like, well, even Hitler, one of the most evil person in the history of the planet, he, when he was a baby, was innocent. The things that happened in his life shaped who he became. But people are born inherently good. People aren't born evil. That's something that I've heard a lot. I tend to think that it has to be true, you know? There's not a single baby that I've met who doesn't, like, laugh and play and giggle and show the most extraordinary joy and happiness and love and affection. Like, children typically are good. I think that it's how they're brought up that shapes who they become. So does it make sense then to hold the parents accountable for the actions of their kids? Like, if a kid is a bully. So this kind of relates to what we're saying. Because like I was saying, my parents argued and fought a lot. It was never physical that I know of. Apparently, there might have been in the past. I never saw it. My brother never saw it. My sister never saw it. There were a lot of verbal abuse going on, and it wasn't a very loving, happy environment. And it sort of did make me take it out a lot on my brother, for example. Like, I love my brother. He's my brother. Okay, and we've grown up. We now, I feel like I don't know how he feels about me, but I care about him a great deal. But like it did shape how we treated each other while we were children. Like I picked on him a lot, you know. Like I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that I bullied him, but he might say that, you know, that I picked on him when we were growing up. Some people might say, well, that's just boys being boys and an older brother being an older brother. And, you know, I kind of don't buy that. And that's me talking about myself and my past. I think that a lot of the way that I treated him and even other people was kind of shaped by what I saw, you know, in the household. My parents always arguing, fighting, disagreeing, being negative, loud, you know, and those kinds of thoughts and actions shaped the way that I thought and the way that I acted. You know, I'm very positive in that. I think that both my brother and I realize that to some extent that's sort of what happened. And because of that, we don't really hold it against each other. If we ever did or said anything against each other, we sort of just say, well, you know, it's because of the way that we were brought up. We've actually come to this conclusion, separate from each other, but we agree on it. I wonder if Jake has any JFC right now. Need it. Hungry. But it's another example, again, of, you know, the way that you are brought up, whether direct or indirect. Yes. Whether direct or indirect affects what you think and what you do. So when it comes to things like bigger topics, let's say politics, religion, I don't know, even just like little things like your opinion on vegetarianism and meat eating and or let's say, I'm trying to think of other similar topics, but I think you guys kind of grasp what I mean, is that like every little thing, your stance on gay rights, your stance on racial opinions, you know, is it influenced by yourself, what your learned opinion is, or what you have just been taught? Are you basing what you think on what you've been taught, or what you have gone out and discovered yourself? Now, I know that that's sort of the same thing. Okay, I got this. I got to get back to the Mesa. That's what I'm doing next. Back to the... Oh, it's dark. Let's go sleep in Dave's hammock, I guess, is the closest bed. I know that learning, period, and being taught something go hand in hand. But, like, is it a matter of trust? Who do you trust? How do you know when you're being taught propaganda, more or less? Is that the right word? When you're being taught something that may or may not be the complete truth. My opinion is that people should always be taught the very latest and greatest, newest and most profound bits of knowledge. You know, the leading edge. Like, if you aren't sure of something, then state that. You know, dinosaurs were scaly lizards, you know, like that's what people thought at one point. And now people are even saying, well, some dinosaurs may have even been warm-blooded, you know, like they had feathers. People should be getting taught that, and not so much taught that this is a fact, but that this is a theory. And reiterated again and again and again that though this theory is widely believed, you yourself as an individual should be the determining factor on whether or not that's what you want to believe. So And I mean, and then there again, there's differences in, quote, theorem, theory. The word theory in itself has now become something of a non-word because like a mathematical theory can in fact be a fact. Scientific theory can be a fact, but they call it theory anyway. I mean, it's sort of a loose term nowadays. So you kind of have to be like, well, it's just a theory. But that word isn't exactly the way that it's meant to be, you know. It's hard to even say. I'm getting off on a tangent again, but my point is, people should really consider for themselves what they choose to believe and come up with good reasons to believe it. I don't know if there should be like a, you know, if you can come up with 10 good reasons why you believe something, then that's what you should believe. If you can't come up with 10 good reasons, then you should look for answers or look for other options and see if you can come up with 10 reasons to support that, you know. Maybe that's a good way of measuring what to believe. I don't know. I haven't tried it myself. I feel like I'm very opinionated and I'll believe what I choose to believe, and you know, that's that. That's that. But is that a good way to think about things, you know? I want to feel like I believe in what I want to believe in because I've done my own soul searching. Like religious wise, I believe what I want to believe. When it comes to politics, I do the research into people's backgrounds, into what they've historically felt and believed in, and what their current policies are, and I shape my opinion based on that, regardless of what color they might fly the flag of. To me, that doesn't really matter. It's what the person feels and believes. And a big problem there is that those people in themselves might think and act a certain way, not because they feel it's the truth, but because they have been told to think that way, or that's the way that their family has always thought, you know. And it's such a, how do you get past this hump, this weird, you know, people not being able to think for themselves mentality? It's so difficult, you know. You get school divisions saying, well, you know, we will not support you know, students who may be homosexual to go to prom together, you know, good example, without at all considering what the beliefs of the people involved believe. You might say, well, you know, the Bible is no place for school. It should all be science and fact. But again, you're not considering the fact that there are a lot of unknown elements out there, and conversely, the same argument the opposite way around. You know, that religion should be taught in school, when people should be given the choice of what religion they have. I'm bringing school up a lot because it's really where a lot of young minds are shaped, apart from their parents, for example. But then you also get like the political element, and that's one aspect that schools in general tend to be neutral on. And I guess why it differs so much is that, you know, a school will tend to be political neutral, but when it comes to big topics like religion and gender discrimination or sexual preference and things like that, they always have an opinion. But when it comes to politics, it's often your family that is the defining factor. Like, oh, well, my family is from this state and this city, and everyone here is, you know, let's say conservative, so we all vote conservative. I don't care who the party member is. I'm conservative, you know. That's the way that it has always been, and that's the way that it'll always be, and you know, that's the argument that people have. And they do have a right. They have the right to think that way. I'm not saying that people don't have a right to think that way. I'm just hoping that somehow in the future, and this is kind of to wrap things up, I hope that in the future we have a society where people get to choose the lives that they want. You know, it's kind of going towards the whole, I don't know if it's like a Star Trek-esque future of everyone's happy and we all live in paradise type of thing. But I don't know if a family bond will be as strong in the future, especially with the progression of technology. And I almost sense like maybe 200 years from now, maybe sooner, but you know, in the future, a child will be born to a family. The child will say, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be an astronaut. That's a wild imagination that a lot of children have, but maybe it's not so much a wild imagination. Here's the thing, is that if your child from a very early age says, you know what, I love music, I want to one day become a musician, then that child would be sent to the best schools for music, you know? That's just the way that it would go. I feel like right now, families in general coddle their children quite a bit, and it shapes the way that children behave, what their opinions become, and in fact, what they often do in life. You know, I've met a lot of people who are insecure with themselves and scared about their futures and who don't know what their future will hold, or they want to act a certain way, but they feel like they can't because their parents wouldn't approve of it. But I don't like that type of mentality, and I don't know if that kind of thing will change in the future. Because I feel like, yeah, family bonds and should be strong. But like I said with the whole Star Trek thing, and this is what kind of got me. I was watching an episode the other day because I'm a big nerd, right? But this kid wanted to become a writer. He was only 16 years old or so. He wanted to become a writer. His father wanted him to become something else. But he said, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to become a writer. And the father right away said, well, that's great. You know, you should be. And by the age of 17, that kid was traveling far away. He wasn't going to be in the watchful eye of his parents anymore. He was going to go and study at one of the best schools for writing. And was able to follow his dreams because that's the dream that he had for himself. That's the opinion he had for himself. And I feel like in the future, maybe we will be in that same kind of mentality. And I kind of want to take a peek. If time travel was a thing, I would love to jump to the future and see, like, what are people's opinions like now? Do they still follow what their family follows? Or do they think for themselves more? You know? Are you following a certain religion because your family does? Or do you follow it because you really have a faith and a passion for that religion? Do you believe a certain scientific thing because that's what you were just taught in school? Or because you actually went out, did the research, looked at the facts, and said, yeah, it makes sense that is right now the latest and greatest thing that we can learn right now. It's interesting to think about. It's why I kind of wanted to talk about it. It gives food for thought. Every time I think about it, I often even surprise myself about like maybe some ways that I've been influenced And maybe I should take a step back and look at more evidence, more fact. See what I can come up with. Anyway, that's where we're going to end it. Don't forget to leave your comments below. There will be a top comments, topics video coming soon. Just to keep that in mind. And with that, we'll be seeing you guys next time on TimeShot. Bye-bye.